Welcome to the Smarter Science of Slim, the scientifically proven program where you eat more and exercise less to burn fat and boost health.
Eat smarter, exercise smarter, live better. I am so ready for that. Hey everyone, this is Carrie Brown and I am in the studio in Seattle with Mr. Jonathan Bailor.
What's up, Carrie? How are you?
I am awesome.
Carrie, I'm excited about today's podcast.
You're always excited. You get excited about everything.
This is false.
It's true.
I do not.
It's a good thing.
It's a good thing.
We love a bit of excitement.
Excitement.
You have a very, very exciting shirt on today, Jonathan.
I do. It is Elmo. My entire shirt is Elmo.
Yes, his Elmo shirt, and there's a big old grin on his face, and it's just a happy, jolly, yes, bring it on kind of shirt.
I love it. Well, that's because our first topic today, Carrie, is a happy Elmo-esque. Like, I could just see Elmo answering this question. I'm not going to try to talk like Elmo because I don't know how to.
Thank goodness.
Carrie.
Jonathan.
Starchy carbs. They don't just seem addictive. They are addictive.
Ooh, hiss.
They are addictive. Starchy carb addiction is a real thing. And it's evidenced in many of our lives, right? It's very, very hard to give up starchy carbs for a lot of people. However...
Oh, carry on.
However, Carrie especially, I mean, you're a great example of this, both in your lifestyle and in your recipes. There are myriad ways to stop eating starchy carbs without missing them nearly as much. You don't need to go cold turkey, let's say.
Right. You don't.
So let's run through some examples of if you're trying to go sane. Obviously, a major component of that, first and foremost, is the elimination of processed sweeteners and poisonous, addictive, brain breaker sweeteners. Next is starchy carbs, because when they leave your stomach, they're the same thing. So what do we do if we want to go sane, but we don't want to never have the mouthfeel of a starchy carb again?
Well, the biggest thing for me, I'm not sure I'm answering your question at all, but the biggest thing for me was to stop the cravings. And to do that, I found the most effective way is to make sure I'm eating enough protein.
Okay.
Because when I eat enough protein, the cravings go away. And that is phenomenally helpful, because if your brain and your body is not just going bread, it's much easier to not go get bread. So for me, the number one thing was to switch off the cravings. And for me, again, that was protein. Protein killed it in a good way. However, and anybody that reads my blog knows that my brain is a bit weird sometimes. And there are some times where I still get these insatiable cravings for bread and things that do not support my health or my body fat goals. So my number two thing that I do to get past that is not have anything insane in the house. Because when those cravings hit, if they're there, I'm far, far more likely to eat them. If they're not there, I will, for the most part, I will find something in the house that is sane, because that's all I have, and I find that takes care of it.
As always, Carrie, your brain is beautiful, because you just unlocked a treasure chest of things for us to discuss.
Yippee!
I am excited. Okay, so a couple things. Let's unpack this, Carrie. No, the cravings thing. So part of the reason that we get, and I'm not going to geek out too much here, folks, but there is you're not getting cravings because you're crazy. There's a reason that's happening. So a lot of it has to do with certain chemicals in our brain, like serotonin, for example. And a lot of these neurotransmitters and things like that, the precursors to them, like the things your body needs to create them, are made from amino acids. Amino acids are what your body breaks protein down into?
The building blocks of protein.
So in addition to fat being a key component of neurological function. So, and most sources of protein also come with some healthy fats. So when you do consume more protein, you are actually, let's say, filling, for lack of better terms, receptor sites in your brain that, if not filled, will flip out and cause these crazy cravings. In fact, there's been some research done in terms of individuals supplementing their diet, like if they have really intense sweet cravings, supplementing their diet with certain isolated amino acids that will be precursors for the neurotransmitters that the blah, 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 blah. Point is that it's not just like anecdotal, Carrie Brown eats more protein and it makes her starch cravings go away. There's a heck of a lot of neurobiology supporting a higher intake of protein, making it much easier to resist the siren song of starch.
Wow. I do something normal. That's the second time this week someone said I did something normal.
Woohoo! The other thing you said, Carrie, was get the crap out of your house.
Right.
That is absolutely true, and I'll take it even one step further. There's been studies done that show, quick disclaimer, Carrie, a lot of these things with starches and sweets, and we all know this, I'll admit it for myself personally, starches and sweets are where we turn to when we're eating for reasons other than just like, to not be hungry anymore, right? Like there's something else going on. Like we're using food as a form of therapy, right?
Medication.
Like a form of medication. And that's because starchy carbs and sugar trigger an opiate response similar to things like painkillers and opiates like morphine and heroin. That's not me saying like they stimulate opiate receptors in the brain. They do. And you go through withdrawal when you go off them. It's been demonstrated repeatedly in clinical trials. So we turn to them just like individuals would turn to painkillers or alcohol or anything else. The reason I say that is because it's an emotional problem. So if we're trying to figure out the solution, there are some things we can do to help. When we're in an emotional state, it's kind of like a hot state. Like you're hot. It's hard to make rational decisions when the emotional side of your brain is on, right? So one of the great ways to avoid having to make decisions when you're in an emotional state is to make the decision before you're in the emotional state.
Absolutely. Yep.
Which is exactly what you've done by taking the food out of your house.
Yep.
And even so that's a very obvious example. Like if it's not there, you can't eat it. But even like, let's say you're not in like a burning hot state. You're not like, I don't mean you, Carrie, but I mean like globally, a person is just like, I had a freaking hard day at work. This is a hard day. And you come home and you open the refrigerator and staring you directly in the face is something insane. Literally being at eye level, the food you have at eye level, studies show, these like behavioral studies show, is dramatically more likely to be consumed than food that is not at eye level or even within sight. Like
I didn't know that.
Having something, well, think about supermarket shelves.
Yeah, I understand the power of purchasing. That makes sense to me, but I'd never thought about it in terms of my own refrigerator. Yes. I mean, I only have SANE stuff in my refrigerator, but even so, I may have to rearrange my fridge now. Well,
especially when we think about how we store vegetables. Often vegetables are put in these little drawers and not in plain sight. And what is in plain sight is often like these giant bottles of soda and other things.
Yogurts filled with sugar
So what, and even better, imagine having, Carrie talks about this all the time, and she's exactly spot on, is like having SANE options already cooked right there at eye level. So even if you have other people in your house that maybe are not committed to living a SANE lifestyle, so these substances have to be in your house, you can do things like put them in places you don't look as often, or just try to have them not be staring you square in the face. Mm-hmm. That is much, there is much help there. There's also another technique, because again, right, we're not here to eat less food, but we do openly want to eat less starches and sweets. Like we want to eat so many good things that we're too full for bad things. But if you are going to go eat these insane foods, there's been other behavioral studies done where the size of the plate, like if you took, I don't know, let's arbitrate 100 grams of bread, and I don't know how big that is. It doesn't matter for the point of this. And you put 100 grams of bread on a plate that has a 8-inch diameter. And you put 100 grams of bread on a plate that has a 4-inch diameter. There will be a different reaction in your brain after you finish eating the 100 grams of bread served off a 4-inch diameter plate than off an 8-inch diameter plate. Like we've all seen those
because with the 4-inch you ate a plateful, and with the 8-inch you didn't. And
we've all seen those. I forget, like mind games or the things where you like read them in magazines, and it's like, which line is longer, this one or that one? And oh, they're actually the same length, but like your brain's playing a game.
Right.
The same thing kind of happens here, where a lot of times these techniques are talked about like in terms of portion control, and we're not really about portion control, because if you're eating the right kinds of food, your body will automatically take care of portion control for you. But if you're in that time of transition, making sure, for example, that you don't eat potato chips directly out of the bag is a really good idea. Like if you were to eat potato chips.
So put them in a little bowl.
Put them in a bowl and be like, I'm going to have a bowl. And again, Carrie, this isn't anecdotal. There's plenty of science and studies showing that if you, kind of a funny study, but they gave individuals bowls of soup. So this wasn't even a food that is difficult to stop eating. And the soup bowls had holes drilled in the bottom, and they had little pipes coming into them, and they would just pump more soup into the bowl, but slow enough that no one ever detected. And you just kept eating. Just, well, the bowl's not empty. The bowl's not empty. And remember, the body is a brilliant thing, and it does take cues from your eyes in addition to your mouth as to when you're full. So that's just important things to keep in mind when we're dealing with food. We understand that there's emotional aspects, and there's things we can do to avoid those emotional aspects from compromising our health.
Right.
Make sense?
I read a study or something recently that said that the brain, actually the addictive areas of our brain, light up like a Christmas tree when we eat starches and sweets, which I thought, then once you've taken that first mouthful, then it's a slippery, slippery slope. So the key is not taking that first mouthful. It's very, very hard to control the intake once you've started. So if you can not start, you're way ahead of the game.
Absolutely. And if you have to eat, if you're just like, you know what, something starchy's got to be there. And to be clear, for like certain athletes, starch can be okay. Now there's paleo community has covered this ad nauseum. There's a lot of great things going on there in general. And there are starchy carbs that are better and worse. Like one of the worst starchy carbs you could ever eat is modern wheat. Like it's just horrible, like horrible, horrible, horrible. And one way to wrap your head around this is one, like you can't eat wheat unless it's processed. You can't. You cannot take, if there is a substance in nature that you have to grind up, cook, this, blah, 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 for it to even be processed by your body, that's maybe a good sign that the body was never intended to process it in the first place, right? So things like wheat, you can't eat wheat as it is found in nature. You can't. Like there's a reason human beings don't eat grass. Like we cannot break down the cellulose found in grass. Cows can. Like cows have 4 separate stomachs. They have different digestive enzymes. They can do it. Like we can't eat grains. Now, some people say, okay, I'll buy that. There's grains. Now, what about like potatoes?
Love potatoes.
Because potatoes, you know, all you need to do is cook them, and you can eat them. And sweet potatoes have quite a bit of vitamins in them, quite a bit. And regular potatoes have a respectable number of vitamins. Certainly, like if you were to compare a white potato to white rice, white potato is going to be way more nutrient dense. So if you must eat starchy carbs that you could eat as found directly in nature, albeit you need to heat them, are a better choice. Not only because they're more nutrient dense, but just intuitively, things that we couldn't possibly eat for the vast majority of human existence can't possibly be the things that we were either designed to or evolved to thrive on, depending on your beliefs.
So if it's got to be starch, start with the starchy vegetables.
Starchy tubers.
Starchy tubers.
So, and if you have to choose between white potato and sweet potato, pick sweet potato. And here's the cautionary tale. As we all know, if you were to eat a baked white potato by itself, it is very difficult to go bananas eating that. However, if you take that same potato and you cut it up into little strips and you deep fry it and you salt it,
You can go to town on that.
like literally you could take the same amount, and this is crazy. Like think about how when people are like, oh, there's calories, it's just about calories. You could take the same amount of potato and eat it plain, and you would have one level of satiety, one level of everything. Take the exact same amount of potato, deep fry it in trans fats, and salt it. And see what happens when you eat that same amount of potato. And you'll even consume more calories because you're going to get calories from fats too. So you will eat way more calories, you will be less satisfied, and you'll be in this spiral. When you combine starch with processed fats, like even like putting a lot of butter on a baked potato changes things completely in terms of how satisfying that substance is, yada, yada, yada. So something which starches are just tricky. Like it's a little bit like dancing with the devil because
sneaky starches.
It is. It's sneaky because butter, we know, like regular butter from healthy
happy
cows, good stuff. Like we're all about that. Smarter Science Slim butter, good stuff. I just tapped my chest. I don't know why I did that. And potatoes ain't gonna kill anyone. They're not sane. I wouldn't recommend eating them. But if you put butter on potatoes, stuff blows up.
In a bad way?
In a bad way. In a bad way. So, well, just think about it, right? Like, when's the last time you ate a plain, well, and obviously you're saying now, so you don't, but like.
I honestly cannot remember the last time I ate potato.
So, that's the other thing is.
And I'm not at all sad about that, people. If you're new and you're going, I can't live without potatoes. I think mashed potato is one of the finest things on earth, but I don't eat it and I don't miss it.
And part of the reason is also like we didn't even get into these substitutions, but so just to let's quickly summarize: grains, very bad; starchy tubers, especially like when we start to get into things like carrots and radishes or what. I mean, those then it gets even more gray area. But generally speaking, if you got to eat something that tastes starchy, look for the things that give you the most micronutrients, vitamins and minerals, and the least glucose. Like a white potato is basically pure glucose. You can spike your blood sugar like a freaking boom, your blood sugar is going to explode. But like a carrot, not nearly as bad. And the good news too, Carrie, as you know, is we can do things like mashed cauliflower.
Yes.
Which is glorious. And you can eat that till your stomach explodes if you want. And it's not going to do anything but make you healthier.
I actually did that at the weekend. It wasn't mashed cauliflower. I made cauliflower cheese, and I tell you, I ate a whole freaking cauliflower, and I thought my stomach was going to explode. And it was lovely. And
there's all like you can make a game of it if you want. Like maybe you go from white potatoes to sweet potatoes, and then maybe try something like a turnip or a parsnip. There's a bunch of other. And then you work your way towards maybe just doing more of like a carrot or radishes or beets. And you start to work your way more to vegetables that grow above ground, generally speaking.
I just want to say that there is no one right way. Some people will do better going cold turkey.
Absolutely.
On the starches, and other people will do better doing what Jonathan just described, which is kind of moving from potatoes, swapping them out for sweet potatoes, moving on to the carrots and the beets and the turnips. And, so some people, that's just the way you're wired or the way your brain's wired or the way that is more helpful to you is to do it gradually. Other people can't do that. It just drives them nuts. So other people respond better if they go cold turkey. we can't tell you which you are, but do what's right for you. Do what makes it easiest for you to be more successful faster.
And while you're doing that, be sure, if you haven't already, to pop over to Careys' website, which is careybrown.com, because in some ways this conversation is moot now that I think about it, because Carey has like SANE cheese biscuits and like all this kind of SANE starchy stuff, which is just made using
no starch.
So you can really have your cake and eat it too. It's just that the cake is made out of coconut flour. So,
and I don't mean to brag, but I have to say, when I'm having when my brain is trying to have a starch fest, if I go home and I make my cheesy biscuits, scones for you Brits and Australians out there, I go home and I make them. They take 10 minutes, literally. It feels, my brain thinks that it's made from wheat.
Yep.
I get the exact same amount of pleasure and what's the word? Satisfaction out of eating one of those, which has no starch in it at all, as I do from the real thing. Maybe even more, because they are, I've got to say, I know this sounds big-headed, but they taste awesome. And you've eaten some, Jonathan, so you know.
They are fabulous. And then, of course, there's a bunch of muffins up there and cookies and all kinds of baked stuff. And there's no shortage of this, right? Like, Dr. Davis, who wrote Wheat Belly, the paleo community. There's diabetics. Like, there's really, this is not either. I mean, if you need to give up smoking, it's not as if there's like, oh, we'll just smoke Sublacco and it's fine, but tobacco will kill you. This is one of those cases which is like, actually, if you like starch, just eat this, which is going to give you the same kind of thing, and it won't give you diabetes. So, yay!
Yay!
I love that.
Yay! Careybrown.com. Biscuits galore. Yay!
I love it. Well, Carey, there's a whole nother aspect here to dealing with starches, but we are out of time. So, listeners, if you enjoyed learning about how to stay sane and give up starchy carbs, be sure to tune in next week, because we will have at least part of part 2 and probably cover some other stuff as well.
Awesome.
I love it. Until then, eat more, exercise less, just do it smarter. Chat with you soon.
See ya.
Wait, don't stop listening yet.
You can get fabulous free SANE recipes over at careybrown.com.
And don't forget your 100% free eating and exercise quick start program, as well as free, fun, daily tips delivered right into your inbox at bailorgroup.com. That's Bailor group.com.